In the royal capital Paluma, the demi-humans are subjected to hard labor by humans, but our MC Banaza is different as he treats them equally and even pays them for their work. The demi-humans refuse to accept the payment, but being a goody two-shoes, Banaza insists that they take the payment and have lunch. Seeing all this, the capitalist traders from America call him a hypocrite, which makes Banaza wonder why they all can't live in harmony. Suddenly, Banaza gets teleported into another world where he's surrounded by priests and a guy who welcomes him to the magical kingdom of Clarode and addresses him as a hero candidate. Banaza cannot comprehend what's transpiring as the guy further tells him that he has been summoned to protect their kingdom from the Dark Army. He is then asked to place his hand on an orb that'll determine his magical energy. As soon as his skills get appraised, they realize that Banaza is just a pathetic loser who has no divine revelation. Just then, another guy is summoned from some other world and that edgy guy turns out to be insanely overpowered. Seeing this, the demi-humans and all the priests start simping over him. After this, the ugly king of this kingdom declares the other guy as the hero and Banaza is informed that he cannot return to his kingdom because the gate that was used to summon him is closed. They also grant him special permission to stay in the Delavezza forest. On his way to the forest, Banaza questions the demi-human escorting him some questions regarding this world, but gets completely ignored just as my crush ignores me. He then questions the demi-human if he's in a slave contract with the king. In response to this, the guy starts laughing and reveals that humans and demi-humans live in harmony in this world. He then instructs Banaza to bottle up and closes the door. Later on, as they reach the forest, the demi-human hands over a small pouch to him and warns him to get out of here if he wants to survive. After this, Banaza brings out a sword from the pouch and comments on how worn out it actually looks. Just then, he comes across some slimes and as he gets rid of them, he reaches level 2 and all his stats also level up. Being dumb, Banaza fails to recognize the infinity symbol in front of his stats and he still believes that he's a pathetic loser. He also activates the voice instruction because he's a loner. The voice informs him that the pouch is imbued with a locator and another spell that attracts monsters. This makes him realize that the Trash King wants him to die. Following this, as he is about to enter the forest, the voice warns him that the forest is heavily polluted by malicium, which refers to liquid and gas produced by demons. The voice then asks if he wants to purify the entire forest, and without thinking any further, Banaza agrees to this. Meanwhile, the princess of the kingdom confronts her good-for-nothing father for sending Banaza to the Delavezza forest. According to her, it was their fault for summoning Banaza into this world, but the king doesn't accept his mistake and calls Banaza trash. Just then, a guy appears in front of him and reports that ultimate holy magic spell has been cast. Hearing this, the king believes that the hero must have cast the spell and gets overjoyed. However, the guy further reveals that the spell was actually cast in the forest where they sent Banaza. Meanwhile, Banaza utilizes a unique skill shapeshift to alter his appearance so he can venture inside town. While choosing the gender, he actually chooses female and turns into a beauty with massive melons, but transposes his choice immediately. This time, he turns into a stud. Now that he has altered his appearance, it's about time he ventures to Castle Town. The voice suggests using teleportation to move instantly as Banaza agrees using it. Upon reaching the town, he heads towards the guild where he is informed about everything related to being an adventurer. Since he cannot register himself as Banaza, he registers himself as Fleo, which is actually his old dog's name. After this, as he is looking for some random jobs, he notices a girl urging people to escort her to the Delavezza forest, but gets refused by everyone. Seeing this, Bazana approaches her and offers to escort her. As they are conversing, he accidentally utters teleportation magic which shocks the entire guild. Just then, some other adventurers appear at the spot and label him a child trafficker for lying about using teleportation magic. To clear his name, Banaza urges them to accompany him, to which they agree. With this, he casts the teleportation magic and teleports all of them to the forest. This makes them wonder if he's not your average loser, but a high-level mage. They also apologize for their rude behavior. Meanwhile, the little girl is shocked over the fact that the forest is not covered in malicium anymore. This makes the other women realize that this girl is actually a demon and threaten her to reveal her true identity. The girl takes their insult to heart and transforms into a massive wolf demon named Fenris. She was instructed by her brother to scout the enemy and gather the prey. The adventurers, on the other hand, were not expecting such a high-caliber demon to appear there. However, much to the demon's surprise, Banaza was not affected by her malicium at all and decides to get rid of him. Banaza has no other choice but to teleport the others back to the town, and after doing this, he unleashes all his magic spells to defeat the demon. After teleporting the useless women to the town, Banaza is up against Fenris the demon. With no other option, he decides to use all the magic spells in his arsenal and take down the demon. He even manages to dodge its attacks with the meteoric leap and then counterattacks with the whirlwind. The demon somehow manages to get out of the attack, but Banaza traps it with gravitation magic. The monster attempts to escape using instant teleportation, but Bazana's AI dispels its magic and renders the monster powerless. Banaza, on the other hand, is figuring out ways to seize the monster. The AI suggests using subjugation magic that will make the monster his servant, but Banaza immediately rejects this proposal, stating that he doesn't want to make anyone his servant. The AI, however, keeps recommending him to use subjugation, but Banaza persists in his decision. In the meantime, the demon's magic runs out and it surrenders, stating that a warrior without magic has no right to live. It further demands Banaza to kill it, but he refuses since fighting was not his intention to begin with. Just then, he dispels his gravitation magic and frees the demon. This shocks the demon and it questions the reason behind it. Banaza asserts that being a human or a demon doesn't even matter to him and he doesn't want to fight someone who has already surrendered. Hearing this, the demon transforms into a woman with massive melons. Banaza immediately offers her his jacket as suddenly, the woman collapses. Following all this, Banaza sets up a camp where he scans through his magic spells and remembers people deeming teleportation magic as something mighty. This makes him ponder why he can use such a magic spell. Meanwhile, Fenris also awakens from her sleep and notices that her magic has already been replenished. She then approaches Banaza and questions if he casted healing magic on her, to which he replies positively. Fenris explains that it would have been natural if she had been killed and skinned, but Banaza saved her. She then pledges that she would never hurt humans again and acknowledges Banaza as her master. Banaza, on the other hand, refuses to be called her master, but Fenris persists, stating that she can carry his stuff or even become his slave. Banaza refuses all these options, but after seeing Fenris bawling her eyes out, he allows her to accompany him. Following this, Banaza reveals everything about his past and how he was summoned as pathetic loser. Even after hearing all this, Fenris vows to stay beside him. Meanwhile, the hero's entire army got wiped out by some magic beasts and the hero blames it all on the knights. The ugly king, however, doesn't trust and questions his knight about this. The knight tells him that hero pissed his pants after witnessing some monsters and abandoned his army. On this way to his room, the useless hero cannot figure out the reason his stats aren't increasing. Just as he is stressing about it, another woman with massive melons appears out of nowhere and accompanies the hero to his room. Amidst all this, Banaza takes Fenris to the town and decides to get her registered with the Adventurers Guild. As they are venturing through the town, a traitor mistakes them for a couple and Banaza deems this a good strategy to avoid misunderstandings. This makes Fenris insanely happy since she always wanted a husband like Banaza. Upon reaching the guild, Banaza gets Fenris registered as Riss. Just then, the guild makes an emergency announcement regarding an urgent request to get rid of the psycho bears heading towards the town. Fenris suggests that they participate in this request, but Banaza refuses, stating that he is way too weak. With no other option left, Fenris decides to defeat them by herself to prove that Banaza is overpowered as hell. With this, they teleport to the location where the psycho bears were last spotted. Fenris is confident that she can defeat them alone, but Banaza still accompanies her, stating that she cannot leave her alone. Hearing this, Fenris comments that they can even defeat the demon lord if they're together. Just then, they hear some women screaming and rush towards them, only to come across those useless adventurers from before. Seeing this, Fenris suggests that they leave them behind, but being a goody two-shoes, Banaza decides to help them. Just as they take down the bears, the girls recognize Banaza immediately and question him about Fenris. Banaza introduces her as his companion, which disappoints her. Suddenly, a psycho bear appears out of nowhere and ambushes Fenris, who scares the living shit out of it, and they decide to tame the bear as their pet. They even name the bear as Sib. Following all this, Banaza takes the useless women to his house where they introduce themselves as Belarasa, Blossom, Bileri, and Bulano. Even though all of them are knights serving the king, they urge Banaza to take them in as his students. According to them, the hero's army was wiped out by some psycho bears and the hero blamed everything on the knights. Now, the king wants the knights to be capable enough to take down at least one psycho bear by themselves. They also admit that they are weaklings and want Banaza to teach them. Banaza wants to help them, but he is just as useless as them, so it would get difficult for him. He then reintroduces Fenris as his wife, and upon hearing this, Fenris agrees to training the useless women. Now that Banaza has agreed to help them, the women have another request. They want him to let them stay in their house, and for some reason, Fenris agrees to this as well. Meanwhile, the Demon King has been reported about the purification magic casted in the forest. This shocks him as he demands to locate the human who casted such powerful magic alone. My man Banaza wakes up to Fenris staring at his face, which shocks him, and he questions the reason behind it. Fenris reminds him that they're a married couple and are supposed to stay in the same room. Banaza remembers that Fenris was prepared to get laid last night, but he refused her polite offering, stating that they should officially get married first. He then offers to sleep in the living room, but Fenris asserts that Balarasa and the others would suspect their relationship. With no other option left, both of them have to sleep in the same room. In the present, as Fenris is helping Banaza get undressed, Balarasa appears out of nowhere and misinterprets this situation. Following this, Balarasa and the others go up against a psycho bear and get absolutely folded. This makes Banaza realize that they are just as useless as Aqua. Banaza then allotted them a room to stay in, and they shamelessly accept his offer. Just then, Fenris calls them for dinner, and much to their surprise, she has prepared some raw meat for them. Seeing all this, Banaza suggests that it would be better if she cooked the meat, but Fenris fails to comprehend the reason behind it. Realizing that he is surrounded by useless brats, Banaza decides to prepare dinner himself. Fenris, on the other hand, was a bit hesitant to try cooked meat, but after taking a bite, she fell in love with it. The following day, Banaza and Fenris take all the psycho bears they had captured to the Adventurers Guild, which shocks them as they fail to comprehend how a single individual can capture such mighty numbers. The adventurers inside the guild are also talking behind his back because they have nothing better to do. Fenris then seeks consent for venturing into the town since they still have some time before the assessment. Just then, a guy named Lilith approaches Banaza and introduces himself, revealing that he wants to discuss something with him. As Banaza follows him into a room, Fenris also leaves the guild to learn cooking from someone in the town. Lilith tells him that his fame has spread all across the country, and after hearing about his accomplishments, the king wants him to serve under the hero. They will also grant him knight status, and even though the guild doesn't want to let someone like him to leave, they want him to save their sorry asses. Hearing all this, Banaza concludes that he has no reason to fight those demons and refuses their offer. With this, he leaves the guild and comes across Fenris, who is all worn out. This makes him wonder if she got into a scuffle or anything. Fenris, on the other hand, cannot believe that cooking was that difficult, as during her first class, she literally blew up the entire kitchen. Meanwhile, the useless hero is enjoying his time with some women who tell him about an adventurer who is insanely overpowered. Even though the hero is a pathetic loser, he still brags about his strength and demands to bring Banaza under him. Exact 1 month has passed after this offer, and the castle is still pestering Banaza regarding this matter. Meanwhile, the useless women are doing everything except training, and Balarasa is even seeking Banaza's attention by acting weak. Fenris, however, is not giving them a single opportunity to score their goal. With all of this going on, a mysterious person with cat ears is stalking them. Later on, Fenris prepares dinner for all of them, and much to their surprise, her cooking has improved a lot. Fenris reveals that she has been taking cooking classes in the town recently, and it seems like her hard work is finally paying off. To top it all, she even made curry for Banaza. With all of this going on, the mysterious Catwoman has recognized Fenris and is shocked to see that the most feared warrior in the Demon King's army is now cooking food for her husband. Just then, Fenris appears behind her and addresses her as Illuminus. She takes her inside and questions her regarding her actions. Illuminus reveals that she is here to investigate the area, while pondering about Banaza and Fenris' relationship. Even with her appraisal skill, she cannot read his stats. Illuminus then reveals that they have noticed some strange changes in this area, including the fact that there are magic beasts in this area. This makes Banaza realize that his purification magic must have worked back then. This shocks Illuminus as she realizes that Banaza is the man behind Fenris' brother Fengarel's death. Even though Fenris knew about it, she kept quiet because she believed that it was her brother's fault for being too weak. Suddenly, Balarasa and the others appear out of nowhere and apologize for eavesdropping. With no other option left, Illuminus challenges Banaza to a battle, only to get folded in mere seconds. Now that the matter is resolved, Banaza reveals everything to Balarasa and the others, stating that he kept this fact a secret because he was afraid that it might trouble them. Even though it is their moral duty to report Fenris to the castle, Bela Rasa and the others decide not to because they owe her a lot. Just then, Fenris senses massive dragons heading towards them with Illuminas leading them. Banaza, however, gets insanely excited after seeing them, which shocks her. Seeing his carefree behavior, Illuminas instructs the dragons to attack him, but Banaza absolutely obliterates them with his holy magic. He also helps the muscle mommy to acquire the Dragon Slayer skill and enhance her level. Seeing all this, the Demon Lord decides to confront Banaza himself. Banaza reinforces a barrier that informs them about demons as Fenris further reassures him that she'll kick anyone's ass who trespasses this barrier. Banaza, on the other hand, is still concerned about the fact that he killed Fenris' brother, but her massive melons divert his attention. Meanwhile, Bela Rasa and the others are still shocked that their useless comrade acquired the title of Dragon Slayer that easily. Hearing all this, Bela Rasa heads into the forest to hunt some magic beasts, which makes them believe that she's such a stoic person. Bela Rasa, however, is crying like a little bitch because she wants the Dragon Slayer title as well. According to her, this title is so damn prestigious that it can turn a commoner into a noble. Just then, a guy approaches her from behind and questions about Banaza. Bela Rasa questions his relationship with Banaza and Fenris as the guy tells her that he's related to Fenris. This makes her realize that he's someone from the demon army and unsheathes her sword. With no other options, the man chooses to go without anything and requests her to carry his message to Fenris. He identifies himself as Gozal. Just thereafter, Banaza and Fenris enter and question her about the person. According to Banaza, Bela Rasa was truly speaking to the Dark One, which surprises her and makes her wet herself. The next day, he pays them a visit, and Banaza invites him into their house. The Dark One is surprised to see Banaza maintain his composure in front of him. Bela Rasa also confronts the Dark One and pisses herself once again. The Dark One instructs her to sit beside him as they have some tea. Without wasting any time, the Dark One offers Banaza to join his ranks and defeat the humans, who politely refuses his offer, stating that he doesn't know shit about this world and doesn't want to fight. The Dark One then explains the past and tells him that this war has been going on for 500 years. He further tells him that the first Dark One was a reincarnate from another world and was rejected by the humans of that time. According to him, demons accepted that outsider, and this led to an all-out war between them. Amidst all this, Bela Rasa is reconsidering her past decisions. In response to this, Banaza asks if the Dark One wants to stop the war, as the Dark One affirms that even though he doesn't aspire to rule the world, he still won't stand the humans killing his people. He keeps pestering Banaza, only to get brutally rejected, just like my crush rejected me. Besides Banaza, the Dark One is quite fascinated by Bela Rasa, who was sitting beside him all this time. Well, she ends up falling unconscious, and upon waking up after 2 days, she comes across the Dark One, who is having breakfast with Banaza and Fenris. The Dark One keeps visiting them after this, and Bela Rasa refuses to meet him every time. Meanwhile, some knights report to the Ugly King that a demon has been visiting Banaza for quite some time now. This makes them speculate that he must be conspiring with the demons and orders his army to invade him. Just then, the useless hero appears at the spot and demands to lead this army himself and subjugate Banaza. Meanwhile, Illuminus questions the Dark One regarding his plans regarding Banaza, asserting that it is dangerous to visit that guy alone. The Dark One, however, deems Banaza far more reasonable than the King of Clarode and wants to win him over at any cost. With all of this going on, Banaza is planning to sell some stuff in the town to make some living. Fenris suggests that he should have accepted the offer from the king and wonders if he refused because of her. Banaza assures her it wasn't because of her and further asserts that he doesn't want to fight anyone with his overwhelming abilities. Just then, the useless hero appears at the spot and offers Banaza 2 choices. He wants him to serve under him and become a knight. Otherwise, he will subjugate him for conspiring against the kingdom. The hero is actually quite delusional and thinks that he's some big shot, but Banaza brutally rejects his offer. The hero even threatens to put Bela Rasa and the others behind the bar for conspiring against the kingdom. The wannabe Kirito keeps pestering him, and with no other option left, Banaza decides to pack his stuff and leave this place. Seeing this, Bela Rasa and the useless girls also decide to join them. According to them, their time with Banaza and Fenris has changed them completely, as previously, they used to believe that demons are evil and must be eliminated. However, now their opinion has changed completely and they don't want to fight without any reason. With this, Banaza uses teleportation magic and teleports his entire home to a different place. This shocks the hero and his army since they haven't witnessed teleportation magic utilized over such a large scale. In the meantime, the Dark One also appears at the spot and a random NPC recognizes him as the demon who has been visiting Banaza. Seeing that Banaza's home is entirely gone, the Dark One speculates that the humans must have killed them and gets enraged. He then instructs his entire army to mobilize and destroy the entire kingdom. Seeing all this, the hero pisses his pants and escapes. In the meantime, Banaza and the others have established their new home at a place far away from the royal capital. The demon army is wreaking havoc over the entire country and have reached the northern stronghold as well. A knight reports all this to the ugly king who questions him regarding the hero. The knight informs him that the pathetic hero is hiding in the southern stronghold after pissing his pants. With no other option left, the minister suggests that they cast purification. The Dark One has also received a report regarding this and instructs Illuminus to retreat from the army because he doesn't want any demon to get caught in this. Meanwhile, the mages and the ugly king, who is seemingly not as useless as he looks, cast the purification magic to eradicate the demons. With all of this going, Banaza returns back home with Fenris waiting for him at the doorstep. She attempts to seduce him, but Banaza refuses to give in to his nasty desires and decides to have lunch. During lunch, Fenris questions him regarding his affairs in the town as Banaza tells her that he hasn't found any business partner yet, but he is optimistic. Just then, Blossom announces that she's thinking of selling vegetables in the town because she has been way too useless lately. Valerie also announces that she'll breed horses as Blossom informs them that she used to be horse caretaker before becoming a knight. Hearing all this, Balarasa realizes just how pathetic and useless she actually is. In the meantime, the purification magic was successful and the kingdom has somehow managed to drive away the Dark One's army. According to the minister, it will take around 3 months for the spell to wear off and this will grant them enough time to make preparations. However, they had to pay a massive price for this since all their mages are mana depleted now and need 2 months for full recovery. Even the ugly king is unconscious because he got ahead of himself and participated in the purification spell. With no other option left, the princess announces to assume her father's position according to the law. As her first decrees, she strips away the useless hero from his title and banishes him from the castle. She decides to consult the oracle to discuss their future endeavors. After this, a knight throws away the trash hero alongside his ugly lackey. The hero attempts to argue, but the knight doesn't give a shit about it and leaves. Later that night, Banaza expresses his gratitude to Fenris for always staying by his side and helping him. The following day, Balarasa and the others suggest that Banaza and Fenris go on a date. They want them to leave the household work to their useless asses and enjoy their time together. Banaza hesitates in the beginning, but is reminded that they are married. Now, he has no other option but to agree. As they are strolling in the market, Banaza wants to buy a present for Fenris and asks her about it. Following thorough consideration, they decide upon a gemstone brooch that matches Fenris' hair color. Fenris keeps staring at her brooch the entire night, which makes Balarasa and the others realize that the date was a success. Later that night, Fenris attempts to seduce Banaza once again, but my man refuses to give in to his nasty desires and sleeps with her melons pressing on her back. Meanwhile, the useless hero and his ugly lackey have managed to infiltrate the castle and attempt to steal the treasure. The ugly lackey questions if he has given up on being the hero as the shameless hero tells her that he does not plan on living as a commoner in this world. He keeps searching for something that can defeat the Dark One and redeem his title as the hero. Just then, a mysterious voice instructs him to release it if he desires power. The voice further provokes him to draw a weird sword, and being the ugly dumbass he is, the hero draws out the sword. Suddenly, a woman appears out of nowhere and introduces herself as Haya, the Jinn of primordial light and darkness. Seeing that the hero has released him, Haya offers to grant him 3 wishes. With all of this going on, the princess has summoned the oracle Ursula and seeks revelation regarding their next move. Suddenly, a mysterious collar appears around their necks which shocks them. The princess immediately realizes that someone must have unsealed the Jinn and instructs the knights to capture them. The oracle and the princess explain the presence of a Jinn and how it grants wishes in exchange for sacrifices. With no other option left, the good-for-nothing princess asks the oracle to guide her. According to the oracle, they must search for the real hero who is hiding somewhere. The ministers immediately realize that she must be talking about Banaza. The princess then decides to visit Banaza herself. In the meantime, Banaza manages to strike a deal with a local swordsmith. Seeing all this, Balarasa gets shocked and wonders how Banaza is perfect at everything. Fenris tells her that he was a traitor in his previous world, which makes Balarasa envy their relationship. Fenris then reveals that the Dark One has taken quite a liking to her disgusting self and that she might have a chance with him. On their way back, Fenris urges Banaza to spend some time with her as well now that he's busy with work. Just then, the Jinn Haya appears at the spot and introduces herself. The pathetic hero had actually asked her to kill Banaza as his first wish. Just as Haya is about to strike Banaza, Fenris comes in their way and gets slashed instead. The Jinn keep attacking them, but Banaza's automatic defense system protects him. Banaza attempts to heal her, but all in vain as the Jinn strikes him with her most powerful attack. Much to her surprise, the attack has no effect on him. All of his infuriated Banaza to the point that he turns into an edgelord and decides to beat the living shit out of her. My man Banaza just wanted to protect Fenris because she was the only person who stayed by his side and believed in a pathetic loser like him. Even though Banaza shunned her away in the beginning, their relationship turned into something special. Even after knowing that Banaza killed her elder brother, Fenris loved him and protecting Fenris became his entire purpose in this unfamiliar world. After being struck with Haya's magic, Banaza has also acquired primordial light and dark magic. He utilizes time reversal to bring back Fenris from the dead, which shocks Haya. She cannot comprehend how a mere human can use time reversal magic, and before she could say anything, Banaza pulls an Eren Jaeger and smacks her right in the face. He keeps hitting Haya without hesitation and none of her spells seem to work on Banaza. Just as she appraises his skills, it is revealed that Banaza actually possesses infinite skills, but his dumbass thought that he's just a pathetic loser. Make sure to not become an illiterate pathetic loser like Banaza and complete your assignments on time. As Banaza is toying around with Haya, Fenris awakens as Balarasa tells her that she is alive owing to Banaza's magic. She then notices Banaza beating the living shit out of Haya and gets excited, but immediately remembers the time when he spared her because he didn't want to fight. She realizes that a kind-hearted person like him would never want something like this. Meanwhile, Haya is literally begging Banaza to forgive her sorry ass, but gets brutally rejected, just like my crush rejected me. Just then, Fenris appears out of nowhere and hugs Banaza from behind. She reveals that the reason she fell for him was because of his kindness, and that she doesn't want him to lose that part of his personality because of her. Seeing that Fenris is alive, Banaza hugs her and completely ignores Haya. Meanwhile, the princess and some worn-out mages have teleported to the town where Banaza lives. The princess instructs her useless knights to protect the mages while she searches for the true hero. Suddenly, the collar around their necks breaks apart, which shocks them. The princess believes that the Jinn must have failed to fulfill her task. With all of this going on, the useless hero is now trapped inside the dungeon with knights chasing after him. Just then, a mysterious black smoke appears and takes over the ugly lackey's disgusting body. She then introduces herself as the Grand Magus of Midnight Damalinas and transforms the ugly hero into a massive monkey. She then decides to punish the royal family that sealed her away. Meanwhile, Banaza heals Haya, which shocks her, and she questions her reason behind it as Banaza tells her that Fenris is fine. Just then, Balarasa appears at the spot and asks what will they do with Haya because they cannot hand her over to the castle knights. Banaza suggests that it would be better to seal her in the castle's treasury. This further shocks her since Banaza is not supposed to know where she came from and questions this as well. Banaza reveals that he peeked into her memories to uncover the truth. He further asserts that if they hand her over to the castle, something similar might happen again. Suddenly, Fenris appears out of nowhere and suggests that she becomes Banaza's servant. She states that they cannot rely on the castle to keep an eye on her, but her real intention is to keep her as an asset. Banaza asks if she would be fine with her joining their puny family since she basically killed her. Fenris tells him that she lost owing to her own weakness. Having exhausted all alternatives, Banaza resolves to take her on as his servant after Haya pledges her allegiance to him and vows to refrain from taking any lives. Banaza subsequently expresses regret for his earlier actions, causing Haya to blush inexplicably. He then wonders if they can use time reversal magic to repair the town, but Haya votes against this. She also urges him to not use that spell ever again because it can disturb the spacetime matrix or some shit like that. She also reveals that Banaza actually possesses infinite skills and can utilize total acquisition magic. This makes him capable of utilizing any type of magic once he's hit with it. With no other option left, Banaza restores the town with restoration magic. Later on, they take Haya back to their home where she introduces herself to Blossom and the others. They literally piss themselves after knowing that a literal djinn will live alongside them from now on, but Balarasa reassures them that it'll be fine. Following this, Banaza apologizes to Balarasa for scaring the living shit out of her and reveals that he doesn't know how to utilize his powers. In response to this, Balarasa tells him that Banaza made her realize how important it is to not blindly follow something and always seek reason to use your power. Later that night, Banaza notices that Fenris seems a bit worried and questions her regarding this. Suddenly, Fenris forces him into a seductive position even though they could have been talking while sitting. She inquires whether Banaza plans to return to his former world and implores him to bring her along. Upon hearing this, Banaza reassures her that he has no intention of going back and proposes marriage to her. Both of them then kiss under the night sky, and before Banaza could reveal his holy sword, Haya appears in their room. This makes them wonder if she overheard everything they said, to which she replies positively. Even though she wanted to fulfill her own nasty desires, she makes an excuse that she was keeping an eye on Banaza as her servant. Hearing this, Banaza forbids her from doing this and have some common sense if she wants to live with them.